MMA Boxing Talk here. I just wanted to put out a quick video talking about the UFC lightweight title picture. Conor McGregor, of course, is the lightweight champion. Next Saturday, we have a massive fight between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson, which will be for the interim lightweight title. Conor's taking a bit of a hiatus, so they put in the interim belt, which I think is good, because who knows what's going to happen with Conor if he comes back or whatever. We've seen, if Conor doesn't happen to come back to lightweight for some odd reason, we've seen champions, under different circumstances, but we've seen interim champions get promoted to the regular champion, the official champ. I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'm just putting out this video because, up until this point, I touched a bit on it in my UFC 209 preview video, but up until this point, I've given Conor McGregor a pass for never defending his title. He never defended the 145, and he hasn't defended the 155. Mind you, he just won it in November. Here's the deal. The reason why I gave him a pass up until this point is because, when he beat Aldo, it was a great, great win. It really didn't deserve a rematch, only because Aldo had been a champ for so long, and the UFC at that point was so, accustomed to always giving immediate title shots. It seemed like that was the regular at that point. So of course, it was 13 seconds. A lot of people wanted to see a rematch, but a rematch is for a close fight, a controversial fight. This wasn't controversial. It was clear cut. He knocked him out in 13 seconds. So then he moves up to fight RDA, the 155-pound champ, which is very honorable, and we never get to see super fights, so I have no problem with that. RDA pulls out of an injury, 11 days, notice. You have all these fans who are flying out to Vegas, already bought their tickets, already paid for their hotels. Conor McGregor saved the show. He didn't have to fight, or he could have said, okay, well, I'm going to wait till RDA's ready. Conor McGregor didn't do that. For the fans, he didn't pull out. He took on Nate Diaz on short notice, clearly did not take him serious, and he lost. At that point he could have went back to fight against smaller guys at featherweight and continue to dominate. But what he did, very honorable, very noble. He rematched Diaz at 170, which, despite Dana White, the Fertittas, Conor's coach, they all advised him not to take that fight at 170 because he doesn't fight at his optimal at 170. He ignores all that, takes on the fight, and beats Nate Diaz fair and square. It was close, but he beat him fair and square. You can't give Diaz 3 rounds. I'm sorry. It's impossible. Now, go back and rewatch that. Conor won the first, the second, and the fourth. I don't care if Nate Diaz put on a little bit of pressure the last minute of the second round. He didn't win that round. Conor dropped him twice. But so now he avenges Nate Diaz, and Nate Diaz was, he beat Nate Diaz, and Nate Diaz was ranked number 4 at lightweight. So, what happens? Conor McGregor moves up to fight Eddie Alvarez, and he skips the line, or so we think. But really at that time, in my opinion, there was really only one guy that Conor skipped the line for at 155, and that's Tony Ferguson. Ferguson was on an 8-fight win streak in the best division in the UFC. Mind you, he had a hard time beating Lando Venata in that fight before, but he was the most active, most legit. RDA had just lost the title, so they're not going to give it to him. Now, a lot of people thought Khabib deserved that title shot. When Conor fought Eddie, a lot of people were saying, well, he's skipping Khabib. Skipping Khabib. Khabib had just been out for 2 years. He came back and fought Daryl Horcher, who, was a part-time UFC fighter. And people think he deserved the title shot? Not a chance. Not a chance. The only guy that deserved it was Tony Ferguson, Edson Barboza had just lost to Ferguson, so RDA didn't deserve it. He just lost the title. Khabib had just been out for 2 years, come back and fought a bum, big deal. So, and Conor beat the 4th-ranked lightweight in Nate Diaz. So that title shot was legit, in my opinion. it wasn't like there was a lineup of contenders waiting for that title shot. No. There was really only one guy that should have really deserved it, and that was Tony. And you could argue that Tony's performance before that wasn't the best. He struggled. He almost got stopped twice in that fight before against Lando Venata. But that's where it stops. Now when Conor McGregor returns, he's got to defend his title. If he goes and fights Nate Diaz, it's a duck. It's a duck. He's ducking Khabib or Tony because, first of all, Nate Diaz at 155 is going to be an easier fight than at 170 for Conor. And, of course, we have Khabib and Tony, who, in my opinion, are more dangerous, are more elite fighters than Nate Diaz. Not taking anything away from Nate Diaz, but I think Tony and Khabib are on another level than Nate. I think they both beat Nate. So if Conor, and I understand a lot of fans want to see that trilogy, but it's a duck. He's got to fight Khabib or Tony. Now, if he goes and fights Floyd, what can we do? If he comes back and fights Aldo, I still think it's a duck. Because you are the lightweight champion. And you have to fight the interim lightweight champion. Especially guys like Khabib, who is undefeated, 8-0 in the UFC. Tony Ferguson is on a 9-fight win streak in the best division of the UFC. And these guys are going to fight each other. The winner is going to be a clear-cut guy for Conor McGregor. And Conor has to fight him. If he fights Aldo, if he fights Diaz, it's a duck. I don't care what anyone says. This needs to happen. This fight is great for the sport. It needs to happen. And okay, Tony doesn't have the biggest fan base. The hardcore fans know him. They know who he is. They're huge fans. Khabib has, definitely more of a following over in Russia. He's very, very popular over in Russia. Conor McGregor doesn't have the excuse against Khabib saying that he's a nobody and nobody knows who he is. You got Snoop Dogg talking about his performance at UFC 200. He's got a massive fan base over in Russia. They could have that fight in Russia. I don't know if Conor would want to, go out to Russia. He's the A-side kind of deal. But regardless, even in Vegas, it's a massive, massive fight. So there's no excuse. I just wanted to clear the air, give my take on this. I am a Conor McGregor fan, but you can only give him passes for so long. You got to defend the title eventually, and he's never defended it once. And like I said, in the UFC, I give him passes, and I feel they're legitimate passes. Like I went through earlier in this video. Aldo, he beat Aldo, moved up to fight the next champ in a super fight, which we don't see, which is very cool. It's not Conor McGregor's fault that RDA pulled out, of that fight. And then the whole Diaz thing came about. He never defended the 145 title, but he did something noble. And he won over a lot of fans when he rematched Diaz at 170 and beat him at 170. And then there was really nobody. There was nobody really standing there that all the fans knew. No, this guy deserves a title shot over you, Conor. Maybe Tony on an 8-fight win streak. But he struggled with Lando Venata. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I wanted to put that out there. Let me know what you guys think. I want to hear your take. If you liked the video, subscribe. Check me out on Twitter at MMA Boxing Talk 1. That's it for this one. Peace.